Lighting in Unity can be pretty complex. Here we are at the Unity website under the Learn tab. The link will be provided under the video. You can see some of the topics: choosing a lighting technique, the pre-compute process, choosing a rendering path, a color space, high dynamic range, reflections, ambient light, light types, which we will definitely be getting into, emissive materials, and light probes. This is just a really complex area for game development, and something you really have to pay attention to make sure the performance of the game is okay, because it can be very expensive for your resources to have the wrong lighting or too much lighting or too many light sources. So I would highly recommend going through these, but what we're going to do is go back to our scene and get a really nice slow start to our lighting for our scenes. So what I have here is my scene 2 of the project we've been working on, and that's what we're going to light up. This is the outside of the room. Notice there's a light above the room right there. It's a directional light. We've talked about the directional light previously, but we also have other things that are lighting this scene. For instance, if I zoom into my room, the directional light is lighting this up, but it's not the only thing lighting it up. So I'm going to go to the directional light for a moment, uncheck it so it's toggled off, and you see that yes, it did get darker. However, I can still see the room, so where is that light coming from? We have some scene lighting. We can get to that by going to the lighting window. You find that under Window, Rendering, Light Settings. And now you've got light settings for your global maps, your object maps. We're looking at the scene lighting, so the lighting that's specific to just this scene. I'm going to drag this tab next to my inspector so that I can switch back and forth as needed. Okay, so what's in here? We've got the environment component and a few other components, but the only one I'm going to talk about is the environment component. We can see that there is a skybox material, and that is where you can change the skybox, which you can imagine is the sky surrounding your world. It doesn't really matter in this scene because we're inside this room and we can't see the sky, but the skybox is what's causing the light. You can see right there the environment lighting source is the skybox, and the environment reflections are coming from the skybox as well. Now you could, and I think by default, the directional light is the sun source. Mine is not right now. That may be because I disabled it. If I enabled it and dragged the directional light into that spot, it would become my sun source. What we're going to focus on is getting rid of all the lighting. I'm going to change the environment lighting to a color. You can see it's got a dark gray. I could bring that to black, and that should make the light coming from that source a black light, which means we wouldn't be able to see anything. We still can, but that's because of the environment reflections. So for the source for this, I'm going to change it to custom. Now the scene is still there, it's just pitch black. If I come back to the ambient color for my environment lighting source, I can choose a less star color. I can make it super bright, or what I want is a really dark room, because we're going to use object lights to light it up. I could make the room kind of reddish if I wanted it to feel warm or hot. I could go to blue if I wanted to make it feel cold, but I don't want to make it warm or hot. I just want a neutral feeling to the room, so the dark gray. And now if I run the game, you can see I can still see, maybe it's actually too bright for me because I can still see everything. I want it to be pretty dark so that I can light it up with other lights. So I'm going to stop the game, change that color a little darker. Now let's add some additional lights here. I'm going to right click in the hierarchy, go to light, and you're already familiar with the directional light, but let's look for a moment at the spotlight. It's coming from one point and shining a light like what a flashlight would do. I could move that around. If I click on the spotlight and go to the inspector, now I'm looking at the properties for that specific light instead of the properties for the entire scene lighting. Notice inside the light component that I have a range. I can click on that and drag it and change the range. It's basically saying how far out do I want this light to go. If it doesn't go far enough, you won't be lighting up anything. You need to make sure it goes at least far enough to light up what you're trying to light up. In my case, I need to go down far enough that it hits the floor, and then I can see it. So I've got this light on the floor. It's not very bright. That is the intensity. If I drag that one, I can make it really bright or less bright. With the spot angle, I can expand it as much as I'd like. The spotlight is actually not the light that we're going to use right now. I'm going to right click on that and delete it, and click again to add a light that is a point light. A point light is a point in space where light is emitting in every direction from. So you can see there it's got light coming and hitting the wall and the ceiling and the floor. Let's bring the range way down. You can see that there's this sphere around that point light. Anything beyond that sphere will not be lit up by that light. You can see as soon as it gets big enough to hit the floor and the ceiling, I can see the light there. I'm going to actually reset this light so it's in the center of my world. That puts it on the ground and nothing's really lit up, not even the floor. That's because the light's kind of in the floor. I just have to drag it up a little bit and you see that it's lighting that up now. If I increase the range, I can light up the whole room if I wanted to. But notice it's more intense closer to the light. So right by the floor it's really bright, over at the wall it's not so bright. I'm going to bring this range back down. What I want is really what would be created from a candle. And I could change the color of the light if I want it to be a little bit yellow, since it is light from a candle. The mode I'm not going to go over right now, but I definitely encourage you to read the difference between real-time and baked for improving performance. In this case, we definitely do want real-time because we are going to be changing this light dynamically as the game plays. Right now the light intensity is 1. And of course I could make that brighter, which does not feel like a candle at all, or lower, that's a little bit better. But I think if you start at 1, that's a good starting point, and press play, you have this light here. Of course it's coming from nowhere right now. Before we start worrying about making it more realistic by making it flicker, we are going to need an object to put this light with. So I think we need a candle. I'm going to stop and go to the asset store and search for candle. I definitely want free only. The one I'm going to use is this modular medieval asset. It's got lanterns and candles. You want to download it and import it. I'm going to import everything, even though I could pick and choose what I want. For now, I'm just going to take everything. After it finishes, you should see the lanterns and candles folder in your assets. If I go into there, you can see all the different folders for that. The prefabs is what I'm interested in. If I click on candle 1, see in the corner there, that's what it looks like. Candle 2, there's another one. I'm going to go back to the scene view and I'm going to put the candle into the scene by dragging and dropping it. It looks really tiny right now, so I'm going to scale it up some. Make sure it's right above the floor. You can of course place it anywhere in the room that you want. I'll kind of go put it in the corner over here. And notice there's a little flame coming from it. You may want to leave that there, but a flame would normally be moving and I don't think this flame is animated. I'm going to find that candle in my hierarchy. I'm going to open it up and I see that there's a red flame object in there. So if I click on that and toggle it off, now it's not showing that red flame. So it's up to you if you want to leave it or not. What I do want to do is make sure that the point light is in the same place as the candle. And not only in the same place, I want it to be part of the candle, so that if I move the candle around, the point light moves with it. So I'm going to drag the point light into the candle object, so it's a child of the candle object. And I could try to drag it over and place it perfectly, but I think the easier way to do this would be to set the point light's position back to the origin of the thing it's inside of, in this case the candle. And I can drag it up to right where I think the light should be coming from. If I press play, I kind of feel like there's a candle there and the light is coming directly from that candle. If you feel like the gizmos, this white light bulb, or any other gizmos that you have on your screen, I think there's a camera gizmo over here. So if you want to change the size of those, you can do that under the gizmos drop down here. At the very top, you can change it to whatever size you want. So now I'd have to zoom in pretty good to see that little gizmo.